Hi there, my name is Corey Shelton, and today what I'll be doing is my seminar presentation for English 102-4150. And today my book is for the Jumpstart class of 2019, before I forget that part. And I'll be doing the short story of The Man Who Shot Liberty, Valance? 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 I really enjoy the second one, Valance, more than I enjoy Valance. I know it's probably that one, but I'm gonna stick with the one I like because it just sounds normal. It's the one I've been using for the whole beginning of the semester, and it's actually the book I've been working on beginning of the semester. I think I did my first VSP on it, as well as my first short story on that, and it's just been a strong book that was there, and it had a strong message that I really enjoyed. I don't know, it just stuck out to me. We'll be looking at some of the author's biographical information today, as well as some of the historical context of the piece, and then finally we'll end with some of my interpretations and what I thought about the story. So to jump right in, the author is actually Dorothy M. Johnson. She was born December 19th, 1905, and died November 11th, 1984. So 11 days before my birthday, give or take a few years, she would have been alive just a little bit longer. She would have been able to meet me, hopefully, probably not. But she was actually, her main subject was Western writing, which is what the main story, The Man Who Shot Liberty, Valance, was set in, right? So most of her stories were actually, they were just set in that time period, I want to say. They were really focused on that language and that kind of ideal you get when you think of old Western. Most of her stories were set on that. She actually wrote a total of 26 literary pieces over the course of her life, such as 2 novels, 2 juvenile novels, 4 short stories, a total of 5 short story collections, and 13 nonfiction, which she really enjoyed nonfiction because there's quite a bit there, as well as the fact that she had some of them were wrote in the same time or the same year, give or take a few months, but most of them were right after the next. So she really enjoyed her work and prided herself, especially when some of the research I found is what a lot of it says, that she prided herself in her work. Some interesting facts I found on her was that she actually, in 1957, she won the Western Writers of America Award, the Spur Award, which is actually their highest award achievable in Western literary pieces. As well as, I found an interesting thing about her death. Actually, when she died on November 11th, shortly after her early on failed marriage, is what it said, that she, on her epitaph, or her tombstone, she wanted it to say paid in full. But when she did die and her tombstone was made and placed, it actually only said paid. I couldn't find the main reason behind that. It seems like to me she didn't pay in full, but there's no context behind that, so I'm not too sure what that's supposed to mean, but it is pretty interesting to look at. And then another piece I found was that in her early career, right as she was starting to take off, her first ever short story that she sold, The Saturday Evening, she was selling it for about $400, right? But she didn't sell another short story for another 11 years after that, meaning she didn't make anything during that time almost. But then in 1941, or sorry, not 1941, as we go back to I lost my notes. Sorry about that. 1941 was the right one I was looking for. Her stories, when she started coming back, she finally sold the Saturday Evening Post for $2,100. But that's still 11 years after she actually wrote it. So I'm not too sure why she stopped for about 11 years or she didn't sell anything for that time. I just thought that was really interesting, the fact that. But most of this I found on her didn't really change my perspective on the story. The story was actually written in 1953, shortly after her second or third short story, A Man Called Horse, which was wrote in 1950. But The Man Who Shot Liberty, Valance has a really strong story. It has almost a spin-off of the Heroes trilogy, or the Heroes Legacy. More of a protagonist comes in learns and overcomes challenges, and then comes out a better person in the end, striving and protecting those around him. But in this story, it's a little bit different, right? So the story comes out as a lawyer who's looking to, I guess, find his way. He's going to take care of some business in this town, and as he's going there, and he's just traveling, he gets stopped by Valance and his gang, which they end up overpowering him and leaving him for dead. So during that time, we get not the protagonist. He's almost like the protagonist's friend, or the one who's always there for him, which, if I can remember his name, that name was Barracoon. He came and saved him. He saved him from almost dying and drowning in the desert sand, if you want to put it that way. But no, he was dying in the desert heat, and he came and he is really snarky. He's really, I feel, really cocky, just with the way he talks and acts within the story. But he actually becomes a main part, a major player, almost a mentor to the protagonist, which what most protagonists and heroes need, right? They have a mentor that they go with and journey, and they teach them how to survive, how to continue going, especially when they're finally gone, right? So when he first meets them, he's really snarky. He's like, "Do you want me to save you?" And he's like, it's kind of a really weird, awkward situation there. But of course he wants to be saved. But I found that really weird being there. As well as going on to that, we have how they finally end or go through the story, right? They go back and forth. He doesn't like him, and then the protagonist likes him again. And then what ends up happening is that when they finally confront the antagonist, the Liberty Valance, the lawyer calls him out and basically states that it's time to put an end to this, right? They go out in the street and they draw their guns. But shots fire, and what happens? Liberty Valance falls, as well as the protagonist falls. At that point in time in the story, no one knows what happened. All it does is it jumps straight into screaming, as well as the protagonist being helped by the city folk. And they are trying to patch up his wounds, get him healed, stop the bleeding, and then it goes into shortly after that, it flashes back to the future, right? Why was this lawyer at this old nobody's, right, Barracoon's, right, funeral, right? He died, and the lawyer came back and basically said, or not said, but he's, I guess, meeting his past, right? Before that, he learned that he was not the one who killed Valance. He actually didn't even even hit him when he shot his gun. No, rather, Barracoon was sitting on the sidelines in an alleyway and actually shot at the same time as everyone else and ended up killing Valance. So it's really weird because the protagonist spent so long worrying about the fact that he killed somebody, and it goes on to where he actually wasn't the one who did it. And when he finally finds out that, it kind of breaks him down, but lifts him back up in the same way, right? It relieved him from his shoulders that he wasn't the one who killed him, but he's also can't believe that he wasn't the one who killed him, right? Couldn't believe that Barracoon was the one who did it. So that's just some of my perspectives on the piece. I really found that its message was really strong. It was, going from that nobody to a somebody kind of story. It was really interesting. I couldn't have, I really just follow that message a lot, especially like when I take personality tests and things like that. I got the protagonist last time I checked, and I guess it just relates to me. I understand what he's going through. Not being that I've been in the Old West, no, I wish I have. But I really just enjoy stories where the protagonists, they overcome challenges, defeat their barriers, and end up making it to the top in the end. So this was my presentation for English 102-4150. I do thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.